And I said to people many times, there's this very strong geological connection with this phenomenon. And as time goes on, we are starting to put the dots together. This phenomenon is not out there. It's never been out there. It's been right under our noses all the time. And it's connections. When we see UFOs in the sky, okay, that we see the lights in the sky, we go, oh, this is interesting. There's something about something up there. No, because what above is so below. It's about what's down here. It's where in the sky they're manifesting over the ground, over that area. And it is that area, when you look geologically and look at the research, you think that's the connection there.
Welcome back. I'm here again with Steve Mera. Steve, welcome back.
Oh, thank you, Sean. Always a pleasure to be back.
Yeah, always a pleasure on my end too. So, okay. So you've teased me with this notion that you have some new research that I'm eager to hear you talk about. So well, what is it?
Well, many people know that I've been working on a project for 10 years called Project Doorway. And that study is an advanced study into UAP, its capabilities, its limitations, those burning questions. Where did it come from? How did he do what they do? What did he want? All those things. And those burning questions got us into this study. And we've had to travel the world because what we're realizing is that phenomena like this tends to take a step outwards when it gets too much attention. It likes the remote locations, doesn't want us always around snooping. And we know of locations where they are now tracking in and tracking out of locations, usually at dusk, usually at dawn, because there's not many people around at that time. They're clever. You might get the odd one that goes, I'll just plow through on a Thursday afternoon. Oh, well, people see us, we got to do it. But they don't all have to do that, because we now know that they can shift or can phase into an area where we are completely limited of seeing. Now, when you look at the human being, let's just look at the human being for a start, okay? The human being is seemingly the most limited creature on the planet. It's so profound. You even go to the point where we could say, we've been specifically designed this way so that we can't see what's around us. Because your pet cat can on many occasions, and your pet dog can, and other animals, and insects. Don't even get me started on insects. It's crazy. It's, the senses they have. Us, you would take our nearest, supposed to be, allegedly, according to the evolutionary theory, our nearest relative, the ape. The ape is superior to us. It can see in the dark almost. We can't. It can chew and swallow at the same time, and breathe at the same. We end up choking to death when we try that. Remember when we have those experiences? Oh, it's gone down the wrong way. Well, not for them, because their throats and our throats are completely different. Well, our human throats have been completely redesigned. We walk on these two balls of our feet. And we can see that on a sandy beach. When you look at your footprint, it's like the heel and the front part, isn't it? Mm-hmm. And you think, no wonder people fall over all the time. Humans aren't great. And what are the apes? They're flat-footed, just like Bigfoot, in a sense of speaking. They're flat-footed. They connect with the ground better than we do. They don't fall over very often. They can fall out of a tree and carry on moving because the bones are 10 times stronger than a human's. Their physical strength is 10 times probably than an average human. Their hair stops growing at a certain length. The nails do. We have to go for the barbers or go and get a trimming or something, don't we? It's just everything about them is superior. And we're supposed to be evolved from them. Evolved means to get better. That's up to debate by many people now, to be honest with you. But you've got to remember, Darwin, when he came forward, he said, look, it's a theory. That's why it's called Darwin's theory, the theory of evolution. He wasn't convinced, otherwise the theory wouldn't have been in there. And it was kind of, we've got to tell people something. There's quite a bit of pressure. Let's go with this.
When the United States and China clash, the world will never be the same, especially when forces beyond reality threaten to intervene. What if the United States went to war with the People's Republic of China? How would these rivals fight for supremacy on land, sea, air, and across the stochastic streams of time? What wonder weapons would be unleashed? What horrors would emerge from the irradiated sludge of the South China Sea? What heroes would rise and forever change the course of history? Tread into the deepest and darkest dimensions of the multiverse, gaze through a kaleidoscope of fractured realities, and bear witness to the disturbing visions of World War III from today's greatest minds in science fiction, fantasy, and horror. Weird World War, China. Available now from Baen Books at baen.com.
You know, and I've met with curators, you know, when I go to these museums and you see the old, you know, the monkey to man or ape to man, you know, the mannequins and things. And I say to them, do you know, you're still going ahead with this? You're on board with this still? Sometimes they stand very close to you and go, well, until something better comes along, you know. You know, and this is kind of where we are. But it seems that the more current humankind is, the less receptive we've become, you know, compared to even our ancient ancestors. So they were they must have known where energies are, earth energies, because we know that they built on them. How did they know where they are? You know, they must have been able to feel them. We know that even this is an argument now to say that they possibly may have even been able to hear planet Earth's frequency. That's like 7.8 hertz or something.
You're talking about the Schumann resonance?
The Schumann resonance, yeah. Now, it's very, very low. I think it's like 7.8 hertz. So the thing is that we are, you, me, and all our viewers and listeners are all connected to planet Earth's frequency. We might not know it, but I tell you what happens when they started building these underground bases, DUMBs, you know, deep underground military bases. They had people working down there long periods of time, scientists and stuff. And after a while, they started going a bit funny. What's going on with them? And they had to bring in other scientists to try and figure out what's going on with these scientists. Why are they all having a bit of a weird experiences after a while? Not functioning properly, and they can't do the work, they can't concentrate. It was because they were disconnected from the Schumann resonance because they were so deep underground. Because it gets blanked out a lot more. So they had to artificially induce 7.8 hertz into the bases, purposely, artificially, just to try and fool the human psyche into thinking, okay, we might not be able to hear it, but the body must be able to sense it somehow. Because, like I say, our limitation on the hearing is ridiculously tiny. 20 to 20,000 hertz is like that compared to what's out there. And it's the same for sight. We see literally a hair's width in a mile. It's a mile long, and we see a hair mount, you know? That's our vision compared to what else is there. Now, what I'm saying is that it looks to me that we've been specifically designed in a certain way, maybe more modern humans, human sapiens, should we say, fashioned in a way that we are specifically designed that we cannot interact and experience that. That means they're just definitely in there. That's where this phenomenon seems to be, you know, functioning in these areas. And John Keel in 1967 kind of said the same thing as well, and he's at the Eighth Tower in his book, and he was one of the first ones. And all the later on researchers, including Jacques Vallée, have come across sort of similar things. It's profoundly unusual that humans are designed to be perfectly designed to ignore or not be able to experience those things around us. It's like, if we design humans this way, then we know we can't exceed us, and we know we can do what we want. We can be right under their noses, and they won't know. You know, I think it's you know, it seems together, and this is where we start to look at the UAP, and we start to see the operations of UAP beyond the limitations of human capabilities of senses. First things first is speed. Now, the transitional speeds of some of these objects, we can't see them. They're moving too fast for us. These are referred to as high velocity anomalies. We have to use special cameras, high speed cameras, and you slow them down, and sometimes you start to see things. You know, that's been going on for quite some time, since the first time, you know, high speed cameras were developed. But now some of the high speed cameras are so incredible that, you know, it's filming things all around us, sometimes in close proximity, and we wouldn't have a clue that they're there because we're just transitioning so fast, we can't see them. Now, the range of speeds can be from hovering, or 0 speed, to multiple thousands of miles per hour. I mean, Mach 350, things like that. And it's just like, well, how did he even do that? But we have instruments to be able to detect that now. So they're operating in high velocity mode. When they're not, because they believe they can do this as well, they are designed to be superiorly undetectable. That's what it's all about. Secondly, second capabilities, we talk about their capabilities to cloak themselves, to bend light around them. And we know this because we have something which is referred to as dual camera systems now. And one side of it's filming the same thing, but one side of the camera is filming your normal visual, like a normal camera. And the other one is filming just infrared. But you would expect to have the same image on both simultaneously, and you don't. Sometimes we are filming objects in the infrared and not visual. So we're looking, and we see nothing. And when we're looking at the infrared footage, we're seeing live, well, there's something there, but when we look, we can't see it. So this is a process of, it's being very clever and knowing human limitations of eyesight. They know us so well. They know what limitations we have in regarding our eyesight. Our eyesight is very small spectrum, very small. Anything beyond that, ultraviolet or infrared, we're not going to see.
To advertise on Through a Glass Darkly, email throughaglassdarkly@gmail.com.
But now we have specialized pieces of equipment that allows us. Now, people start getting into that. Back in the day, we started infrared cameras, FLIR cameras, those sort of thing. And yes, they do capture sometimes. However, they can even go beyond that now. And we have to start getting into what is referred to as a full spectrum. So you see more the ultraviolet as well as the infrared, not just the infrared, because there are things that operate in the ultraviolet. So it's even expanded there. So they kind of went, oh God, now they've got technology that can look at infrared. Well, I'll tell you what, let's shift into ultraviolet then, But now we've got stuff that's looking at that. We're catching up. And now they're even going to the highest parameters of ultraviolet and infrared, which is just outside the scope of your average camera, which you can buy, which covers, full spectrum. You think, oh, full spectrum is going to cover it. Well, not quite, because there is another area just beyond that, which the full spectrum is like here compared to what we look at. But there is even further. So what they do is they further themselves out even more now because they want to get out of view. They realize what a technology we've got. So now they specialize as pieces of cameras now, which are, well, you could say they utilize for more astrophotography. But the highest amount of ultraviolet and infrared is also being brought in. So now you're starting to see things like the colors of nebula, the true colors, because the camera tries to interpret as best it can, but there are colors, believe it or not, and you can't get your mind around this. In certain nebulas, there are colors in there that we've never seen before. Now, how do you imagine? Try and get your head around that. Try and think of a color that you've never seen before. You can't, and you won't, because everything is forcefully in there until you've experienced it and you think, oh, wow, that's a new color, and these parameters, you see, it's out there in the universe, and we can see that now on specialized equipment. So it's very clever of chasing the phenomena capabilities of trying to be outside our visual scope. So there's certain types of cameras now, and they are typically made generally for astrophotography, which are being used to be able to look at a much wider scope and capture anomalies in them. And they are doing this. They are capturing them. Now, it's interesting is that there are special pieces of equipment now that has a laser target on it. So if you point it at, say you've got an aircraft coming over in the distance, okay, it's a normal aircraft, but you point this laser, and it's not a laser as you would see a light, no pilot's going to see this, so it's safe to do so, but it's measuring target distance. So when you point it and you actually hit it, the information comes back and the equipment reads it and goes, hey, the plane is 3,000 meters away. And you go, oh, yeah, right, okay, so we know the plane's 3,000 meters away. When it comes to UAP, these are clever, because initially it was working. It was saying, all right, the UAP is we can get a triangulation of 3 of these things on a beach, say an example, and we can tell you that this craft is between 2 and 4 meters. You know, most of them, the lights, the strange lights in the sky, the amber, the orangey ones, those are mostly 2 to 4 meters. They're not that big. They're mostly 2 to 4 meters in diameter, but they are intelligent. That I'll get into that in a minute, because that is another source of UAP. But something very clever. When we started targeting them, they start to, of course, we're getting the real statistics back, but then something changes. And then every time you're hitting the target and it's coming back, it's telling us, it tells people it's 40 feet away, it's 45. It's not 40 feet away, it's right out there. Well, this is saying it's 40. So what's happening is they're seemingly putting something out when this targeting's hitting them, and it changes the barrier length. So it looks like, to us, it's misleading, because it's saying they're 45 feet away when they're not, when they're thousands of feet away. They're doing something. There's something between the phenomena and our equipment in between that's being generated by the phenomena, and it catches it short, and it gives us a wrong readings that it's a lot closer than it should be. There's something that they're interfering with the equipment purposely. So they're learning, they're evolved, they're clever, and they know how to keep just out of sight, and their technology is a lot better now, as you can well imagine. So the it's counterintelligent maneuver, and that's clever, that's intelligence, that's evolving, So there's this constant battle going on, But when it comes to, like I was just mentioning about the light phenomena, we do have a variation of UAP. Now, some of those UAP are structured crafts, and some of those structured crafts are ours, absolutely ours. We know by the way they're maneuvering, because when you see them hugging mountains and going like this and turning sharp, so that's an aerodynamic maneuver for something that is in our atmosphere and has the restrictions of Earth's atmosphere around it, so it has to act in a certain way aeronautically. We know those are ours, because the phenomena doesn't need to. The phenomena can have a saucer craft on its edge and still fly like this. No problem, because it's not bound by the physics that we are bound to. So when we see crafts like that, and it looks like a UFO, and you think, well, no, that's our tech. It's our tech. We have got some amazing tech out there, and we'd even have to argue the point, or even to the point where, unmanned aerial drones, so it's a little bit like the Tic Tac and stuff like that. Because I got an official document, and it's from Israeli, and it's going back, say, 2015. And the Israeli government are not shy from the word UFO. In fact, they've had a lot of incursions, and they've scrambled jets, and they say UFO many times. Now, occasionally, they'll say UAP. But in this particular document in 2015, their military bases were being swarmed by objects. Even though that they sent, and it stated this in the document, even though that they sent pilots out there, scrambled jets, it was a total waste of time, because these things are just gone. But what was interesting is a remark that was made, and it was a remark saying, and they didn't say UFO, they said CIA pill-shaped drones. Think about that. CIA pill-shaped drones. Well, that sounds like a Tic Tac UFO. It's a shape, but like a pill, isn't it? And you have to say, do we have this technology, unmanned aerial vehicles, which are not having to regulate themselves with speed and maneuvers because it's unmanned? There's nobody in there to be damaged, because we can't. We're just big bags of water. We've had it. We can't, as you get to Mach 5, Mach 6, we're gone. we're having an out-of-body experience or whatever. But without the limitations of that, and with a special technology that can surround the craft, again, we don't have to worry about effects on human or living organisms because there isn't any in there, that you can apply any form of energy around that to create a bubble effect against inertia and against the physics around what we have to experience normally, a carriage for a human, There's a lot of work that's been involved over the years. When you look back at the inventors, Brown and many, many others, you start to realize, hang on a second, this technology's been around for a while and it's been obtained and doctored and taken. Patents have been stolen, removed, sold. And into the military industrial complex it goes. So some of these things that are being seen are ours. But then some of these things are not. And they've been around for a long, long time. Now, if we go back in time, it's quite interesting because when we look at our vehicles, even aircraft or cars, whatever, over a period of, say, 10 years, we can look and go, oh, wow, that's a big difference. We can now see the big difference between a car that was 10 years ago. And going back 30 years ago, 40 years ago, 50, 100. You remember the old T1 that came out from Ford? How big a difference is it from now? You see, the good thing is with us, our technology is traceable to time because we can say, oh, that's a 1930s car. That's a 1950s car. Oh, that's a Model T. That's when it was first come out in the 1900s. We can trace it through visual, knowing what our capabilities are at that time. The UFO phenomenon, the true UFO phenomenon, is timeless. There is no base model for a true UFO. And in other words, a craft is not owned by us, something else. There's no base model for it. I mean, you can go back thousands and thousands of years and see references to flying saucers. And yet this tried to lay it on us saying, oh, the birth of the flying saucer was the flying saucer era of the 1950s. Utter rubbish. This has been going on a long time. So it's like, well, they don't think like us. They obviously don't think, well, let's tell you what, I want an upgraded model next year. I want a better version. We've still got the same phenomena being seen now as we did many, many years ago. Then they had these people that come to me and said, well, you're not right there, Steve, because you got the triangle UFOs. Oh, right. Okay. Well, the first triangle UFO was witnessed in 1304. If you do the research, there's paintings of this, in the sky. I've got the paintings. Just because you don't find that information doesn't mean it doesn't exist. But then some of it might be ours now. Because, triangular objects are aerodynamic, aren't they? I mean, maybe they're built to fly through. A brick will fly in space, you know what I mean? But so you have to question, well, whose tech is this then? Or the big thing in now is the middle ground. Well, it's not just our tech, but it's their tech as well. It's a joint tech. It's back engineered or whatever. So it's both. And that's when you think, forget it. I can't hold my hand up and say it's theirs or ours anymore. It's like, forget it. And now that's the time we live in. The time we live in now is that I have no idea. If we see something in the sky, we can call it an unidentified flying object because it's unidentified. It's flying into an object. But do not make that mistake to say, well, this is manufactured by non-human intelligence, because some of these are most definitely ours, our tech, which may have introduced some of the technology that we've obtained, or through the process of information obtained from NHI, because NHI will give bits of information. This is why Douglas and Boeing and Bell, they've all had a go at this. Lockheed, yeah. They've all been round the sales tables communicating with NHI and saying, look, can you give us a bit of information about aeronautics and this? And do you know what? What NHI does, it's never going to lay it all on you and go, you know what, guys, there it is. Don't worry about it. It's going to give you little bits. And then we run off with those little bits and we have to work on it and say, oh, how do we get this to fit? And how do we get it to work? And it can take a long time because we don't get the full picture. And that's the same thing that happened with the Vril Society back in Germany. It was given, the resources were given to the German forces. They were trying to get the German flying saucer program going. They look great. They actually did work a little bit. But they realize there's no way these are things that are going to fly around for that long and at incredible speeds and this, that, and the other. It's not working correctly. But they were getting there. Of course, quite a few people realized how close they were getting. We can't have air supremacy. That's the end of the battle, isn't it? To get air supremacy. So we had to sort of get that and sort that out and take the scientists. You know, I'll tell you what, we won't lock you up. Just come and work for NASA. Okay, send your V2 rockets, which were bombing London. Just build a bigger one, call it Saturn V, and send it to the moon, you know? But it's a crazy world we live in, Sean. So we now know that some of this phenomena, especially the light phenomena, people just call it UAP or UFO. Some of this is falling under the category of intelligent light formations. Intelligent light formation. These are, it's like, it might be plasma, it might not be solid, but it's intelligent and it's interactive. So are we dealing with some type of living organism? Or is it something else? This is where it starts getting a bit tricky, because there's more than just UAP. When you talk about UAP, all these things are going to fit in it. Mm-hmm. You know, we're still debating over the ball lightning phenomena. Oh, well, we know it exists. Well, that's right. But I mean, you know, there was an incident that took place in the UK where one came down from a thunderstorm. It passed right through a window, smashing the window, and hit a cooker, a solid iron cooker, and burnt a hole in it like this. So you go, okay, that's the power of ball lightning. 1973, aircraft coming into land. Yeah, during a thunderstorm. There was one passing down the aisle between the people sitting. It was reported, and it went straight through the side of the aircraft, causing no damage. So what's that? Is that ball lightning? Because there's no physical, but we got a big hole in a cooker in Yorkshire. Well, there's seemingly different types. There's plasma type, or there's no. Or what is it? You know, does it happen during thunderstorms? We know that UAP, the true UAP phenomenon, is attracted to thunderstorms, the electrical power. You know, they definitely have an attraction to that, and geological locations. Now, we also know that some of these locations where they seemingly go are areas of mountain ranges. Those mountain ranges are the most common places that are struck by lightning on planet Earth, interestingly enough. And we have been to a number of these, and they're very interesting because there's seemingly a connection with the phenomenon in these locations. So where are they all? Because there's no superhighway passing backwards and forwards from Earth. Yes, we get some stuff out there. NASA filmed them in the past. We've seen the old videos. We get some bits, interesting ones. But statistically now, there's so many UFOs seen on a 24-hour basis. There's multiple thousands of them per day. Where are they all coming from? Well, they seemingly, when you do the real work and look into them, they seem to appear and disappear. The manifestation process, the demanifestation process, and dematerialization. Not just tracking in. I mean, they do go about the business, of course, but seemingly the arrival and disappearance is questionable as to what's going on here. We now know there's so many of them that NASA's announced around about 8 months ago, after doing a rigorous research, that they're aware that UFOs are seen, or UAP, if you want to call it that now. The pilots have been reporting them, the civilian pilots, the military pilots, the Pentagon's announced this, that, and the other. Yes, they know they're there. Did they conclude that they're extraterrestrial? No. Their conclusion was there's not enough evidence to say that they're extraterrestrial in origin. Well, this is what John Keel said in 1967. And it's also what Hynek said at a special closed meeting in 1977, 10 years later, after all that work at Project Blue Book. I don't believe there's enough evidence to support they're extraterrestrial. Jacques Vallée is saying the same thing. We've got astrophysicists saying the same thing. We've got hundreds of people in specialized areas now saying the same thing. And what happened once those all opened their mouths, the narrative names started to change from extraterrestrial and ETH to NHI and non-human intelligence. So you can see now we are living in an exciting time because we are seeing that transition take place. It's exciting. But we're taking us into a place where, okay, is there some support there to say, all right, well, not really extraterrestrial as we would expect them. In other words, it's not like Star Trek. You know, they're not all bipedal, got 2 arms, 2 legs, 2 eyes, and a nose and a mouth. And they don't all have similar crafts, and they don't have all the same capabilities. Well, And they're not all traveling from all these thousands of different planets, because if you look statistically, there's over 4,000 different varied entities that have been seen and reported now. 4,000. Does that mean they're coming from 4,000 different planets? It sounds very Star Trek-y, doesn't it? Because if you want to see a real alien-looking thing, just go to the bottom of the North Sea. I mean, you look at stuff, then you go, wow, that looks alien. And all these have all got the same bodies. Should they all have? Because you only got to go to the bottom of the North Sea, and that's not that far to see the difference in life forms there because of its environment it lives. Well, on other planets, the environments must change so much, which that's what we're seeing in our own solar system, that the variation of life, we might not even understand what it might look like, and yet they all kind of look the same thing and interact the same way. It's very, very unusual. Apart from that, though, is that Hynek in 1977 listed there's over 12 million variations of the UFO phenomena. And that proved there's no base model. There is no base model. It could be anything. It could be a tube. It could be a triangle. And now we're getting, what's the new thing on the block? Cubes. And they're not just cubes, but they spin. And when they spin at night, they light up and they immerse a set of frequencies which are very confusing to look at. I mean, some of these objects are giving out 7,000 to 70,000 watts of power. Mm-hmm. Now, if you go to a football stadium or if you go to a baseball stadium, you know how bright those lights are. What are they? 4,000, 5,000 watts? Some of these are hundreds of thousands of watts. You get no light hitting the ground. Why? Why is the light not casting onto the ground? And yet the instruments are reading such amounts of huge amounts of wattage power that it should be, the whole area for miles should be immersed in this light. It doesn't work that way. Is
it just that they're above and below certain visual?
Well, some of these things have been seen to be 60, 80 feet from the ground, and there's no light source hitting the ground. It's emitting a huge amount, 10 times the amount on a stadium lighting. You'd expect that to be onto the ground and all surrounding area, but it doesn't immerse itself like that. It doesn't transition through our atmosphere the same like that. There's some containment to it, and yet it's creating it and containing it. So what do you do to contain and stop the deliverance of these types of magnetic energies, which creates light on these crafts? Well, it's something quite clever. It's called bismuth. And you may have read or heard about the word bismuth in analysis of UFO metamaterials. I've got some bismuth, actually. Piece of it. It's very unusual looking. But bismuth,
Isn't that from the Polaris?
Yeah, there's been a few different, Art's Parts, which is Art Bell from Coast to Coast. Yeah, there was bismuth found in them. There's been bismuth found in some of the stuff that Hal Puthoff is come out from his Texas labs on UFO metamaterial analysis, Project Adam, which is with the TTSA and a few others. And there's quite a number of, even Jacques Vallée's work on UFO metamaterials. When you start to look at these, there's common factors of bismuth there. Now, bismuth shields. If you have a craft emitting so much light and energy, it's going to come back and affect your craft. If you apply this between it, that stops that process dead in its tracks. It shields yourself from its emittance. Very, very clever pieces of material is being used here for specific means, and we know why the specifics are being used. Now, this is where the red herrings come in, because I've talked to a number of people in high places, and this information was put out to the general public about the analysis of UAP or UFO metamaterial, and they purposely threw in there red herrings, and those red herrings were the 4% isotopic differential. Initially, when it came out, they were saying, "Oh, this 4% isotopic differential, so it's made of materials that we don't find terrestrial based. In other words, it's not from here." And I get that, because, some things, like if we dig up bismuth, say, on another planet, we'd recognize it's bismuth, but the isotopic number of it would be different than Earth's, because it gives a telltale of where it come from. However, that's a red herring. That's to keep the narrative that, oh, well, these things must be extraterrestrial based, because what they don't want is to say there's enough evidence to show that they're terrestrial based. And these are terrestrial based, because the truth of the matter is that all these things, from all the reports we've got, and we've now got 11 of them, and they're all the same. They're all manufactured from aluminium. But interestingly enough, it's the purity of the aluminium is very, very high, 98% or more. Now, we have aluminium. It's the most common thing on the planet. And you can dig it up to 25 miles down, all around the crust of the earth. But you'll never find the purities of it. It's, aluminium comes in low purity. However, it has to be machined and industrialized through the process to create the purities. And it's been found. Every single one of them is high puritized aluminium. Very strong parts. It's very long. It's very strong. It withstands incredible temperatures. It's great for the production of superconductors and stuff. It works really, really well and fits really, really well for UAP material. However, the problem for that is that everything's screaming to us it's terrestrial materials, not extraterrestrial. So when they released the information, they had to throw something in there to say, well, everyone's going to, I tell you what, let's say put isotopic differential in there. Now, I also talked with, some years ago, Roger Lear. Now, Roger Lear was a medical examiner, he was a doctor, and he was involved in these so-called alien implant analysis. In fact, a whole documentary was done called Patient 17 by Jeremy Corbell on the subject of Patient 17's implants. Interesting. In the actual report, which I've got, isn't it funny that it says exactly the same thing as Hal Puthoff's report? Everything's fine until you get to the bottom and it goes, oh, and by the way, there's a 4% isotopic differential. And you think, okay. But then when I talked to Daryl Sims, who's a really good friend of mine, close friend, that was Daryl's investigation. It was not Roger Lear's investigation. It was Daryl's. And Daryl said to me, when I asked him about the isotopic differential, what a load of pop I got. It's not true. That's the red herring. It's been put in there. There was no, and they even go as far as saying, oh, and it might or may have been created in an environment that doesn't have gravity, in a non-gravitational environment. But it may or might is not conclusive. It's not evidence. It's like, I tell you what, let's just throw something else in there. What we do have in the conclusive reports, and the reports that we've got, and we've got 11 of these now, and they are very, very rigorous, the test procedures, they are saying all the same thing, that there are no extraterrestrial elements found in them. What they are finding, though, is the very high purities of aluminium, and you don't get that accidentally. It's through a process of industrializing it, machining it and working it, and that's a hefty process. But someone or something is doing it. And the highest purities you'll probably find of aluminium is at the deepest levels of the core of the Earth, further 25 miles down. And I said to people many times, there's this very strong geological connection with this phenomenon. And as time goes on, we are starting to put the dots together. This phenomenon is not out there. It's never been out there. It's been right under our noses all the time. And its connections, when we see UFOs in the sky, okay, that we see the lights in the sky, we go, oh, this is interesting. There's something something up there. No, because what above is so below. It's about what's down here. It's where in the sky, they're manifesting over the ground, over that area. And it is that area, when you look geologically and look at the research, you think that's the connection there. Is the connection there in that location? Because it's not just UFOs in the sky. You've got paranormal phenomena, you've got faith phenomena, you've got disappearances, 411, they're happening in these locations. There's a geological connection, and above the geological connection, which is very strong, you might have the manifestation of the phenomena goes to play. And of course, we're always looking up. We never go in looking down. We don't realize we're looking up at these objects, but we're walking through evidence We're on it. And I've had people check radiation levels in that location, and they're getting spikes, radiation, and it just lasts for a day. It shouldn't last for a day, but it lasts for a day. That's too acute for it to just disappear, So there's something going on in these geological locations. So now we track the phenomena by the statistics, satellites in orbit, and multiple other pieces of equipment to lock down on the locations where these things are manifesting. And then when we start to check into the area, then you start to talk to the people, then you look at the history, you start to say, well, hang on a sec, there's a footprint, a massive footprint here. It's been going on for a long, long time because it's got a geological connection to the phenomena. And the problem is, as time goes on, and I'll guarantee this, you want to remember that over the next 12 months, you're going to start hearing and seeing more of the word crypto-terrestrial.
Mm-hmm.
Guarantee it.
There was a Harvard paper that came out earlier this year.
Right.
Michael Masters and a few others.
Oh, yes, I had
posited that
conversation with Michael. We're going to be seeing a lot more of this. And because what's going to happen is we're going to change and switch over to the different narrative. So we're going to come away from the ET and the looking out there and it's all coming from space to, oh yeah, they're a little bit closer to home and they have been for a long time. So we're slowly moving over. And that's a really interesting time for us. Because as soon as we do that, then we have to open ourselves to the possibilities of consciousness, spiritual interactions, our ancient ancestors, which have been screaming out and trying to tell us, because there's not many things that survive the time of thousands of years, unless it's in stone, trying to tell us what is it all about, that there's, there's an intelligence under the ground. It's Mera, it's Admiral Byrd's story, it's the underworld, it's Shambhala in India. There's so many different names of high intelligence, maybe non-human intelligence here, but underground or under the water or in the mountains or in the volcanoes or whatever. The evidence is all pointing to that now. So we're shifting over now from the old theory now, which has been, we've been at this, 80 years, 90 years, and we swallowed it. They made TV shows about it, like Star Trek. We all kind of go, oh, yes, this is what's happening. But no, in fact, NASA is saying, oh, well, space is unusually quiet. That's a funny comment, isn't it? Unusually quiet. But it's here. We know the evidence is there. But now we're finding that it's very geologically associated. And that's been tracked since 1982 by the US government, by the way. UFOs in association with geological phenomena. They've been at it a long time. Their resources are better than ours. So it's interesting times because we know that every time we take a step forward and we go, for a few months, we go, fantastic, we're getting them. And then they kind of go, they kind of realize and go, oh, hang on a second, let's expand ourselves out of the range of being able to pitch up on this equipment. And then we have to create the next piece of equipment to expand the range. So this has been going on for quite some time, and it's a catch up. And it evolves, it's clever, and it goes, oh, hang on, let's change our parameters a little bit. And then you got to catch up again. But what situation we have now is that without equipment, we are never going to detect these if they don't want them to be detected. And they literally can be stood right next to you, right under our noses or right above you. We're having people which are suffering from radiation poisoning in locations that are not witnessing UFOs. And yet it's as if they've been right under them. We don't get to hear things about that, very often, but the effects are there. When you measure the effects, you say, yeah, how did he get it? Walking through the woods. How did he get it? There's no radiation there. How did he get it? It's very acute. And we all suffer simultaneously. So, yeah, it's very, very strange. But so now that's where we're up to in the chase of UAP. There's a battle going on between us and them about our technology and playing catch up. We get them for a bit. We go, fantastic, we've seen them all. And then they go, oh, we're being detected, and then they take the next step. So there's no safe zone. It's always evolving. But that's kind of where we currently are at the moment in regarding advanced UAP studies, which are fascinating. And it's taken us into a different location, away from the comfortable narrative to the new narrative. And that this has been going on for quite some time. In fact, this new narrative has been known by the Vatican for thousands of years. they didn't want that narrative out. It has to be covered over. So, they didn't go with the old extraterrestrial stuff. What they did do is say, we'll go for the biblical stuff. And they all became angels and cupids and cherubs, But the source material doesn't say that now. We now know that the source material at the Vatican says for what it truly is. But they didn't know what to call it. They didn't call them ETs. They didn't know what to call them. They called them the strange creatures, whatever they were, interacting with these people. Sometimes they weren't always nice. But they had to cover it up, make it an angelic thing. And so they knew thousands of years ago, but they just didn't know what to term it. So all we've got in American history for 70 or 80 years is that narrative. That's not born from the US government. The Vatican have known it for thousands of years. It's only been adopted by the US government and carried on. But now, the game's up, Now we're looking into the new areas. There's lots of specialized research going in that areas. And we're seeing the narrative change and new evidence come to light. So it's going to be interesting, because if we thought it was hard to wrap our heads around a very simple thing such as extraterrestrials traveling from an advanced world across the universe to our planet, may be feasible. You think that's hard to digest? Wait till we get into the next section. That's why we've got some people that do know some bits. All right, Elizondo, he does know some bits. Tom DeLonge, loose lips, Tom DeLonge. They want to sew his lips together. He knows some bits, but he shouldn't be talking about it. He only used him because of his amount of people he knows. Bit of a stooge. But, he's got loose lips. Even he knows some little bits. And every now and again, they can't help themselves. They put some things out. And you kind of know what they're talking about. Oh, yes, it's going to be a big time of decision-making about what we conceive this phenomenon to be. So some interesting times coming ahead, Sean.
So you're saying in the next 12 months, we're going to get a lot more of this stuff. It's going to point to something geological. Now, when you say geological, does that mean physical locations underground and labyrinths and things like that? Or does that mean some sort of portals that are in those locations?
It's both, because their physics is metaphysical. Ours is physical. We live in a physical physics world. We don't live in a metaphysical. We don't transition. We can't transition ourselves to walk through this wall. They can. The phenomena, the UFO, is not a craft to transport the phenomena. The craft itself is part and parcel of the phenomena. It can transition straight through into cliffs, into volcanoes, under the ground. That is why when they want to be, they can suddenly go. And what happens is that they remain physically seen in our environment, but they're not physically there. And we've had these experiments in the paranormal phenomena where it looks to be there, and you go and pick it up, and you can't pick it up. And you think, what the hell? And it's crazy weird. You can fire a laser at it, and you can get bounce off it. You got shadow off it. When you put your hands through it, you might get a little shimmer around your hands and stuff. But it doesn't. Your fingers don't go numb. There's no coldness. You just can't pick up the damn thing until they want you to join these experiments. Some of these heightened experiments. So it's the phenomena demonstrating metaphysicality. In the skull experiment, we had miniature UFOs seen. Some of these came down and bounced on the table, right? Bang, bang, bang. And then it went through the table, up and down, and then came back and became physical, bang, bang, bang. They wanted to demonstrate that we don't live in your world of physics. We have our own. It's metaphysical. So when we see some of these UFOs enter into water, not leaving a wake, there's no wake. What's going on? Because we might see them, but they've switched into the metaphysical aspect. This is when they can go into mountains or into volcanoes or into the ground, and sometimes they'll disappear off radar. They just become the metaphysical aspects of it, just swap over and change. But then sometimes we still see a key feature of them in our environment. We might be able to see them, but we're not getting them on radar. We're firing radar at it. It's not hitting anything. There's no surface to hit there because it's not there yet. All it is that we're seeing an aspect of it. We get a lot of this in the paranormal. It's the same physics is involved in paranormal, it's a UAP. It's just one of the same. But we're going to have to go back to the parapsychology experts and the test to kind of do the tick-off box for the UAP stuff, because now we're realizing, hang on, we can take your UAP stuff, your whole thing in history, and go, boom, and it fits in the paranormal. Because it's all paranormal. It's no separate thing. You know, paranormal, what is it? Well, some people might say, oh, it's hundreds and hundreds of years old, earthly, age-old phenomena, the paranormal. Really? What about UAP? Oh, well, that's extraterrestrial. That's coming from what? So these things would be the same? We'd see the same things, would we? No, it's always been the same thing. And what we've done is we've taken it out, not recognized it, put it into the different boxes. So, and it's in all these different boxes because these guys won't work with those guys. Those scientist guys won't work with these guys. And you'll never get the picture because it's all in different boxes. But now the boxes are collapsing. Everything's been shunted together as phenomenology, got it all there on a table. And now we can go, oh, hang on a sec. We know the physics of that because that lies in there, in the parapsychological physics of paranormal mechanics. It's there. That's the same physics as this. So you can draw your lines and work out, and you kind of go, okay, now we know. We've got scientists working in parapsychological departments that nobody knows their work, and the ufological scientists don't know their work. You know, but when you start to look and you go, oh, hang on a second, these are both the same thing. So what's really going to be interesting is the fact that as a period of time, there's a learning curve that's happening now and the gelling. Now you've got the paranormal guys, the scientist guys kind of looking at the UAP, and you've got the UAP guys looking at the scientist guys of the parapsychology, and they're kind of gelling and going, hang on a second, where was the first non-human intelligence entity seen? Tell me what UFO case that was. It wasn't. It was not a UFO case. It was around the seance tables in the 1700s. And if not before then, but just probably wasn't documented properly. We can see it in cave drawings and all that sort of thing, you know, and old documentation things. But just as we see in modern day current historical documentation, you know, we can kind of say maybe 1700s. Nothing to do with a UFO. These things were on the scene before the UFO in association with the so-called NHIs, you know, whatever these things be. So it's interesting times that we live, and we do see that correlation right across the whole board. But yes, we're going to hear more about crypto-terrestrial. We're going to hear more about the geological connection with this phenomena. And we're going to start learning a little bit more about us, humans, because we have a part to play in this. And it's been going on for a long, long time. Well, we've been around for a lot longer than what they want to tell us, of course. So that's going to be a bit tricky for them. But this has been going on for a long, long time.
Is there anybody at the top of the military-industrial complex that has the full picture of what's going on? I mean, Lou Elizondo said there is. But what's your experience with this?
There isn't anybody who knows the full picture. They only think they know the full picture because that's all they think is that's how I know it all because that's all I know. If you think, if I give you, you know, a subject and you learn that subject and all of it, and you say, well, I know this, everything. But then one day someone will come forward and go, what do you know about this? And you go, well, no. You know what I mean? So nobody will really fully, because they'll never get it. But I would say they know a lot more. They know a lot more than we do, you know, because we pressed a few buttons over time, myself and Barry, in our research, and they want to know, how do you know that? Where have you got your information? Did Kit Green tell you in? And this and the other, you know. No, but they know us. And then when you realise, okay, well, we are user-friendly. Steve, do you want to join SCU, you know, which is Scientific Coalition of UAP Studies? And say, yeah, absolutely, I don't mind, you know, I like to gel with them, you know. They know my work. I know they've got their resources, and they're 10 times better than us. And they're well ahead of us. But what they are surprised about is that generally there's people in the public domain now which are catching up and are not regulated, and we can put it out. They are regulated. They go, oh, we know, but we can't put it out yet. Well, we've got these guys putting it out, and you get a bit frustrated with us sometimes.
Yeah, isn't SCU a front, like, for the intelligence community?
I don't even want to go there, Sean. You know, that's just what my educated intuition tells me. As I said, there's a lot of important people associated with SCU. I got asked to join, and I thought that was surprising when we actually learned about Project Dorian, my work. I got asked. You're over
target. You're over target. Yeah. They want to keep an eye on you.
Yeah, exactly. But then I'm thinking to myself, well, do you know what? I want to keep them close to me. So it works both ways, you know what I mean? But yeah, we're all reaching out for the same stuff. We know how Put Off is aware of our work. No raised eyebrow on that one. But yeah, there's quite a few people that know, probably more than we do, but not generally in the public domain. You know, because like I say, we've had depressing communications and, you know, about we're not regulated, so we don't have to fall under. Guys might be regulated. We're not. We're for the public, so we can share that information. They might not like it. We might be beating them to the pun, you know. Yeah, at the end of the day, the punch. But because we're in the public domain, we just put it out. We gotta look. People have been sat wondering about this stuff for far too long, 70, 80 years or whatnot. You know, it's about time that they got some deliverance. You know, some information. You know, because at this point, all the cards should be on the table. Not, well, do you know what? We know, but we're only going to give you this. And I'll tell you what, we might give you that maybe next year. We'll see how we go. None of that should be happening. You should throw it out there. No, we do. I don't think they like that sometimes because we get a little bit too, what they refer to as red topics, you know. But, and he'd been asked, I mean, they've asked Barry to toe the line. They've been in touch. They had a meeting with Barry. He said, we want you to toe the line. And you know what? You've got to do what you got to do at the end of the day. Otherwise, you're no different than them. And before you know it, you're not telling the public what they should be told. And your resources and all the work that you've done has been for what? You know, 10 years in this subject of Project Doorway, that particular type of research program, you know, it's designed to deliver the information to the public and bring them up to speed. If it's a bit faster than what they would generally want, well, hey ho, that's the way it is. That's what they've got to deal with now, because there's people in the public domain, not just me and Barry, but there are others that are doing just as good work as they are. But they're not regulated by the US government. And that's a bit of an issue for them. So they watch and they try and encourage them not to put stuff, go out too fast with stuff. But at the end of the day, you do what you want to do. If you're in the public domain, you're not regulated when you can release and not can't, you know, because you're not answerable to them, you know. So interesting times though, Sean.
Why do you think they're trying to disclose now? Is it just because they just can't reasonably hold on to the secret anymore because people are just figuring it out on their own?
Yeah, because there's too many in the public domain now. I catch up. And now with the technology and the resources that they have, they can start putting together, well, hang on a second, the narrative over the last God knows how many years, it can't be right. You're going to start challenging it, you know, President, and it'll only last for a length of time, because at some point you're going to go, it's like anything, isn't it? You know, when they go, tell them this, tell them that. Well, it's okay for them. But eventually, the walls will start crumbling, the foundation starts to rock, and it starts to get a bit dodgy. So then you've got to put a plan in operation. What do we do when the foundation starts to crumble? What's the backup plan? Well, we've got to take them over there, but in a nicey, easy, slow process. We can't just say, all right, guys, it's not that, it's been this. You can't do that. It's too much. You can't drop this on the laps of people. It's too much to digest. But they do it in small, and that's where they are. Let's do it in the slow step process.
Do you think this crypto-terrestrial argument is the actual truth, or do you think it's another modified limited hangout operation where it's something else, but they're just...
I'm not keen on it, I'll be honest with you. It sounds too real for me. It's too physical, crypto-terrestrial. It's like you found some strange creatures that like to dig into the ground and go and live there. Yeah, no. But there's no good name for it. This is the problem. There is no good name for it. But they're definitely associated to geological locations, and they do go into these locations, and they do go into the ground, and they're going into the mountains. These mountains, these locations are also home. You can hear them deep level. This sound
like
coming
Taos in New Mexico, and
yeah, exactly same thing. There are locations being utilized all over planet Earth. These things are great at what they do. They know, they're masterful. Look how intelligent more than they are of us. So yes, it's not hard for them to do that, because we've got, trying to wrap our heads around the metaphysical aspects. Well, it's like asking somebody, well, how do you work it out, metaphysical phenomena in paranormal, parapsychological experiments? How do you do that? Well, it's if you can sit at the table and try and work that one out, and if you can work that one out, then you can master that one. because it's the same physics seemingly it's involved here. Transitional through phasing. I don't know. I mean, we used to think, oh, well, we've got to shift the atoms so much that we can pass through solid items. But I can't just be that. There's got to be something else. I don't think it's a shifting of atoms. I think it might be some type of reality distortion or something to do with that. There's multiple realities. They live in more than one reality. They can enter our reality, but they might be able to expand into another few. They dwell in one particular part, but they can drop down and drop out, take those step down, step up. And I think they can transition between these realities, and that gives them the capabilities of being super covert, and go about their operations in such a clandestine manner. We'd never know they're there, and they've been there all this time. The fact is that now we've got certain things, equipment that's starting to light up like Christmas trees and say, hang on a second, there's something going on in this area, and we're starting to ask questions. And once we start prying into those locations, then we start to realize, okay, they've started doing some strange things. The government started building certain places. They started drilling into certain places. Why are they doing that? Why is the military fencing up? Why is it military authorized? What's going on? Too many questions. Nobody's talking about it. And these things do go on, but it's seemingly, we live in a planet of water, really. It's not hard for them to do whatever they want to do. If they can transition through solid matter, water is no issue for them whatsoever. In fact, it's no issue for them to be able to travel at the same speeds they can through sky as going through water. If they're in metaphysical mode, that means that they can travel at 400-500 knots. Not an issue, Now, the fact is, it's got so much water around. We live in a perfect planet for being able to hide things. Perfect planet. That's what we would do, isn't it, really, if we had the capabilities they had. But there are people in the public domain that are starting to realise this. So there's this kind of transitional period that has to take place now. And that's where we are. And this is why we've got the likes of Elizondo coming out now with the book and stuff, because they want people like him and Leslie Keane, the researcher and a journalist. They're utilising key people, US, in key areas which are well known, got good dealings with the media so they can put things out. Leslie Keane came out last year and said, oh, for the very first time, big headline, UFOs constitute the paranormal and supernatural. It's like, whoa, hang on. Okay, Leslie Keane, where have you been for the last 3 months? Well, I'll tell you where she was. She was here in the UK, part of the seance meetings. That's what she was doing. She was working out the metaphysical aspects and stuff.
With Stuart Alexander is my guess, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And I got told about those meetings and stuff and what was experienced and stuff. So she got a taste of it. And she realised, hang on a second, this is like UFO stuff. Yeah. Bingo. So, of course, she gets utilised to put, she was one of the first people, then NASA, then Arrow, Pentagon program, UAP, they came out conclusion, it's not extraterrestrial, not enough conclusion for extraterrestrial. They all want the shift over. And now you've got people being utilised, bringing books out, doing talks, radio shows, and because they are part of the program of changing the narrative, pushing it over, bringing forward some of the more realistic and credible things that are happening, but in a US controlled method, not a public method. Like we go, there we go, guys. Theirs is a little bit different, but we are both traveling in the same direction though for the first time.
What about the NHI? How are they interacting with this process?
Well, they're trying to avoid everything at the moment, seemingly. They don't want you in those locations. It's as simple as that. There's a lot of effort, a lot of timing, and a lot of work, and a lot of huge plan that's gone into operation to work out where to conduct these operations in these particular areas. They're in mountains or in them. And they are specifically picked because of the remoteness. These are remote. Even if you're a trained hiker, it's like, oh my God, how are you going to get in there? That's how remote. You want to know where the strangest things are happening, the most profound interactions, where they've got more of a free reign. It's like the jungles and the deserts and the mountains. Mm-hmm. They've got free reign there, and sometimes they run amok. And sometimes it's not great for the people that live there. I mean, might not be many people, natives or whatever, but it's not great. It's not good for them because they're experiencing the phenomena full on. And it's not always good. Some bad stuff happens. But they have moved us to those regions because they don't want to be detected. They want to be out of the way. They don't want us sniffing around much. And if you suddenly descend on there, they don't like it. Sure. I don't think they're going to be happy about that. Sometimes they can react. Sometimes they might just vacate and relocate because phenomena does. We had that skinwalker before the TV shows and all that sort of thing. We had some prominent stuff there. Now the TV shows, and what phenomena does, it takes a step back. You go, oh, yeah. What have we got here now? We got 5 guys, you got 16 cameras, you got 2 lighting men, you got these guys now. Now what are you doing? You're digging. I'm just going to take a step back. And that's what happens because it's just one little spot, Skinwalker Ranch, in a vast area it's affected.
Mm-hmm.
But the phenomenon has taken a step back to the outer regions of the ranch. We know that because Barry was there in 2017, I think it was, conducting his own tests. Yeah, he got phenomena on film and camera and stuff, but it's on the outer ridges of it, you see. So what it's done is it's gone it's took a step back. Sometimes it does that in the paranormal. You press, and then sometimes it goes, ooh, takes a step back and it doesn't like it, and you press them. And it's taken a step back. But there are a lot of places around there are like that. So it tries to avoid its best, but it's just trying to do what it wants to do without the avoidance of us messing about and getting in the way. But then sometimes, you're going to get something that's going to react, and then they know like we act like excited children. You go, oh, fantastic, I've experienced it. I'm going to bring 10 more people next, and then 30 people. And things going to get a bit out of hand, but they're not daft. They're very clever, so they know sometimes keep low, keep your head down, do nothing. They'll get fed up and go away. And sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't when there's that involved, especially when it comes to big TV shows, But like I said, there's entertainment for the TV stuff and there's the real fact stuff, And there is a big difference between them, to be honest.
All right. Any final words for the audience, Steve?
Project Doorway. We've just been to the Pyrenees in Spain. That was an eye-opener. We're going to be releasing some information on that next year, which we're planning. And it was extremely challenging location. But, oh yes, it's
is that Mount Perdido?
Yeah, the Lost Mountain. Yeah, a specific location though. Because we know, Ricardo Gonzalez goes on the other side and he does his stuff. But it's surprising what we learn.
You're familiar with Pat Price's remote viewing and Lynn Buchanan's remote viewing of the 4 quote-unquote bases?
Yeah.
Right? There's Mount Hayes, Mount Perdido, there's a mountain in Zimbabwe, and there's Mount Zeal in Australia.
Yeah. Oh, yes, we're very aware. And of what's actually currently going on there now and what they tried to cover up. There's a lot of different things. So we're going to bring that out next year. It's going to be interesting. And we've got phenomena. We got it. We photo, we've got video, we got the information. We all came back seriously ill though. All 3 of us.
What kind? Well, first of all, is this coming out? Is this part of the book that's coming out, or is this a separate documentary?
No, this will be coming out in detailed video and stuff like that. I mean, for next year, it should be around about maybe April. Yeah, but the book should be out maybe March. Yeah.
When you said you got sick, what kind of sickness? To the extent that you can talk about it.
It was like we had radiation poisoning.
Okay.
Yeah. I even lost my hearing because of it. Oh, it was terrible, and we really struggled getting back because we all got it, and it's like, who's driving? Do you know what I mean? Oh, that was bad. It was bad, but we don't know why. We don't know how. But yeah, so we did get some very interesting bits, including, surprisingly enough, the paranormal as well, and some incredible photographs of some strange stuff that's photographed there as well. So it was, all in all, it was worth the trip because we got to talk with the people that do live in those remote locations. I tell you what, they've got their own stories and they've got their own names for this phenomena. And it's crazy, actually, when you try and tell you, oh, well, do you know what? It's a meteor. Really? Tell me about it. And then you realise, what? It's not a meteor. No way is that a meteor. Yeah, they just don't know, but they're kind of used to it, But yeah, it's been going on for a long time. We've been in a certain location, and we can pinpoint now exactly where it is. We know where they're coming in, where they're going out, how they're doing it. And yeah, even though that there is a larger area, but we really pinpointed it right now. And boy, was that hard. It's like nightmare to get to, of course. Of course it will be, though, because that's what the phenomena wants. So, but the good thing is that when we're going to be going to Hasdalen in Norway, because those are not light phenomena from the ground. It's not Earth light phenomena. These things are firing pencil beam lights down to the ground now, which is fascinating. So we got an excursion there. But because we're doing these different locations on the Project Doorway, we're now allowing to take teams with us. People can come along and be part of the research and, the investigation, use light equipment, that sort of thing. So not only are we doing the experiments, like I've mentioned before, and allowing people to be involved in them, but we're also going to allow them to come with us on Project Doorway expeditions to conduct specific research in these given locations. So that's something for next year as well, which are also, and we already know there's quite a few people want to do that. So it'll be very limited. We can only really take about 8 people because we have to maintain control over them. Mm-hmm. You got to look after them, of course, you know what I mean? So especially in these particular places. So we only can really take 8 with us at any given time. But I know like those are people who just want to, I already know those that want to do it now. But like I say, we're going to be able to give that as an option because it's been closed doors, really. The research should not been in the, involving other people, just the research teams. But now comes a time when, no, we can do that. If we manage it very carefully, we can do that and they can be part of that. So that's for next year as well. So you'll probably hear about some things about that as we progress.
All right. Outstanding. Well, thank you, Steve. It's always an absolute pleasure. And, we'll definitely be talking soon as your research continues to progress.
Thanks, Sean. Thanks for having me on.
If you enjoyed today's video, please hit like and subscribe, and also hit the notification button so you can be notified whenever I post new content. Thank you. Now, if you're enjoying the channel and you want to support it, there are several things you can do. In fact, there are 5 things you can do. The first thing you can do is just buy my books. I got plenty of books out in the market right now, and I would prefer that folks buy a book rather than giving me direct support because they get something out of it. They get a real tangible product. The second way you can support me is by becoming a member on YouTube or becoming a patron on Patreon. And just go to either site and it'll explain everything. The third way you can support the channel is by checking out my merch site, which is here. There's plenty of stuff that you can get to support the channel. And I'd appreciate that you have it and you can wear it. Not only do you help support the channel, but you also help promote the channel, and I appreciate that. The fourth way that you can support the channel, and this is really easy, is anytime you want to buy something on Amazon, literally just go to the description below and click on any link, literally any link. The channel gets a cut of that, and it costs you no extra money. You just go through the link, as I'm part of the Amazon Affiliates Club. The fifth and final way you can support the channel is through donations. Now, I don't prefer these because it's more of an expression of gratitude, but you don't really get anything out of it as a subscriber to the channel. However, if you decide to do these options, there's 2 options. There's Buy Me a Coffee, which is a separate site, and there's also, you can go through YouTube with either a super chat, super sticker, or a super thanks. Again, I prefer Buy Me a Coffee because that organization takes less money than Amazon does. But either way, I appreciate any support you are willing to give the channel. So thank you very much, and keep watching. I really appreciate it.